Todd, I one time asked a guy at the gas station, I said, what's there to do in town?
What'd he say?
Well, he said, he looked me right in the eye and said, son, you're doing it. Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is to make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. So today's bottom line really is be the weird person who talks to people you meet at the gas station because it makes the ride better.
It sure does.
You know, the roads are fun, but the stories come from the things that happen in between. We've talked about that a lot, and it's kind of the people you meet along the way. And I mean, we've met a lot of people, and I don't know that I know many of their names, but
Right.
we just have our own names for them, right? So,
Like Bib Guy.
Bib Guy is a guy that we met at a convenience store, and it's just being kind of authentic, right? I think we even have a picture of this, don't we?
I took
Yeah,
two pictures
okay.
of him. I did.
So how did it describe the scene?
Well, so we pulled into one of these kind of mom and pop gas stations, if I remember right. And I was one of the last people. Like you guys had filled up already and moved away from the pump, and so I pulled up and filled up. And after I got filled up, then I got my bike out of the way and jump off, and I was going to head into the little convenience store there. And there you are, standing on the sidewalk, talking to this old farmer guy with his bib overalls on, his little hat. And it was just so classic Tom because immediately I knew this is going to be good. So I did whip out my camera. I took a couple pictures of you guys talking. But what did you guys talk about?
There's a couple things that I just be like, I just say, hey, you just, hello, how are,
Yeah.
People are generally a little curious. Like we'll have a group of motorcycles, so that will bring some people in.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of just find the goofiest looking person I can find because, I don't know, this dude's dressed in bibs. It wasn't like everybody was dressed in bibs. He was the one dressed in bibs. So, if you're the guy walking around with bibs, and you're probably the guy that is attracting the most attention. I don't know. Not everyone's wearing bibs, so that's kind of my cue. Hey, what's happening around here? So, I don't know exactly, every time what happens, but for this one, I'm pretty sure he told us, well, I think he was a farming kind of guy, and we were trying to get off the main road, and I think he was like, well, go this way, and you'll go through here, and you'll see this, and hit this town and that town, and, there's some things to see.
Yeah.
What's neat about, you get down in the south, and there's a lot of old farms. There's, tobacco farms, and we've driven some great roads that have had just old tobacco barns, and those kind of are, air flowing because they hang the tobacco.
Yeah.
And they let it, breathe, and I can't remember how many of those we've ever driven by, but it's just kind of a neat thing, and these scenic cutoff roads, they're not on the maps. You don't know, and it seems to pay off. Always it seems like talking to strangers ends up making the ride better almost every single time. I can't think of a time that it didn't.
Yeah.
Because
they tell you about places to visit. They tell you places to eat, things to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hidden gems, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's these people that we've met along the way, and every ride has a story of some sort that ties into that. So
Yeah, I'm still waiting to find come up on somebody's whiskey still or something.
yeah, that'd be all right. We were close. We talked about Salvadores. That guy had his own limoncello still that we tapped into. But yeah. Seriously. I think you don't know who you're going to meet. And that leads us into kind of Muscle Shoals. I think is one of those.
Oh yeah.
We had a destination. I think Brad was doing some YouTube research. We were doing our Natchez Trace Parkway trip, longest road national park in the U.S.
Yeah.
And he saw a documentary. You guys are music guys, you're into music.
Yeah.
And I think he said, I think maybe we should try this. And
he
and
was
we were all
either,
just
like you said, I think he watched a documentary or he read something on the internet about this legendary recording studio. I don't think it had a name. It was just the address 3614 Jackson Highway or something. But it was started by a group of guys.
The first thing I got to tell.
Okay, all right. You got something else.
Well, because Brad's like, well, this thing was amazing, all these people recorded there, and you guys should watch this video before we go. And of course I didn't. And he's like, this is going to be amazing, and so we detoured off the Natchez Trace Parkway. We pull up, and we got this thing pinged to the GPS, and we pull up, and I mean, this is an abandoned garage that someone has.
Yeah, well,
this thing looked like it should have been in a freaking torn down a long time ago. It's like, no kidding. I mean, I've had garages that are bigger than this building, because you kind of come up to it, and you don't realize it's actually 2-story at first. I mean, this thing looks like it's not big enough to have
it's
like
small.
a bathroom and two rooms, and that's it. It looks tiny.
It looks tiny. It's a rectangular brick.
It even looks
stone?
square. It's
yeah.
like brownstone is what I would call
Yeah.
it. Your old brownstone brick. I mean, the windows were boarded. They weren't boarded up, but
they were covered though.
That's what it looks like when you look.
Yeah.
So this is a boarded up building that you're going to take us to. This is great. Great idea here.
Right.
Oh wow, this is probably a piece of Americana here, man.
Yeah.
But
so it was started by these 4 guys that were they're legendary musicians called the Swampers, and their whole career had started at the Fame recording studio, not too far from there. But they just had this unique sound, and everybody wanted to record with them. Well, in like the late 60s, 69 or something,
Sure.
they left the Famous Studios and started this place, their own recording studio, and artists from all around the world wanted to record with these guys because they had this unique sound, and they could play all genres. They could play everything from rock to soul to R&B to blues to country, you name it. And so people would come from around the world. Like,
so you walk in. Let me set the scene too, because you walk in, and it's like it's like the world's worth comic store that you've ever stepped into. You walk in the front door, and I mean, no kidding, 8 feet from the front.
Yeah.
And there was probably, our group of guys was maybe 5 or 6. There was 4 or 5 others that were gathering about the same time we were. You walk in 8 feet in. There's no kidding. It's like an old time front desk with a cash register, and there's no.
It's like a waiting room,
and there is not room for 10.
Right.
So we walk in and buy tickets, and I'm like, "What are we going to tour?
Yeah.
This doesn't make any sense. Right. Like, what are we touring? We're going to walk
Somebody's
in and
bedroom?
back out. Yeah, like, you've got to be kidding me. But, and there's a bathroom up there. Like, I think people used it.
Yeah.
And we're just like, okay, and we're like 20 minutes, 10 minutes from the tour.
But we did see some photos on the wall.
There's a ton of photos.
There was photos.
Memorabilia.
Yeah,
and you're like, I'm curious.
Like, Mick Jagger is, on the wall.
Right.
So we started to learn the story of all these famous people that have been there. Eric Clapton, Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, Willie Nelson, Oak Ridge Boys.
You name it.
Alabama, yeah, Bob Seger. And they all wanted to come there to record with the Swampers.
Right.
And I think it is Leonard Skinner's song,
Yeah.
Sweet Home Alabama, that says, now Muscle Shoals has got the Swampers.
Yep.
That's who they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
And if I remember that story, and they told it, they didn't even know they were going to be in that part of the song, I think. I don't think
so.
And I don't think they recorded it, so I think they listened to that on the...
That's true.
I believe that.
And the equipment in there is the old style equipment.
And they tell you, like, oh, come on, come back past the cash register. I'm like, where are we going? But then they take you downstairs.
Yeah.
And the whole downstairs is this vintage, of course, recording studio, but amazing.
Yeah.
Like, you walk down, and the only thing that is tight is the sound studio room, where all the boards and everything. That was tiny.
That was
the other was actually, it was pretty good size.
It was, yeah. There was enough room in there for a good-sized band anyway.
Right.
But it was cool to see all the old recording equipment, the reel-to-reel machines, the old mixing boards, and the piano that Bob Seger played old-time rock and roll on.
Yeah.
That was
It was cool.
It was cool.
It was amazing. It really, truly was. If you're anywhere near there, within 50 miles, I'd say go see this.
Oh, yeah. The history there. And then there's photos on the walls of all the people that have recorded there.
Photos, and the
receipts.
In that studio. The pictures were taken there.
Yeah, you can see them in that studio. Right. Yeah. I remember there was a receipt from the Rolling Stones, like how much time they spent recording there, and the whole bill after 5 hours and whatever else takes and tracks, like $1,000 or something. But it was probably from the 70s,
Yeah, right.
early 70s or something. But yeah, how cool was that?
It was a great detour, and I think those are the little details of the places where you really got to figure out, like, okay, how do you dig up those places, and
Yeah.
sometimes you're gonna find those by talking to people, and sometimes you got to do the research beforehand. I mean, there's another area that's right down there that could be cool to do, and I think they call it the Dead Blues Trail or the Dead Blues Road or something, and it's a place where like a bunch of blues artists had lived at one time, and you can drive that, but you got to do some research and figure out some of these places to stop, because not every stop is as good, which kind of brought us to finding this really great chicken place. And I mean,
Right.
there's a few, like I think there's eight or so of those in the area down there, but it was Champy's. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, I think we were talking to the people that work there, and we're like, hey, we always like to eat at, local places. What do you got? And they're like, oh, have you ever had Champy's? We're like, no, what, chicken. Oh my gosh. So, and that's where the best food stops have been. I mean,
Absolutely.
we were in Memphis, and I think it was a local barbecue place that we went to, and it was like a McDonald's for barbecue. You remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, same thing. But Champy's is the same. It was chicken. You roll up to this thing, and it looks like they literally took like various pieces of wood and built a shack. I mean, it's just the look they were going for. It was nice. But we when everyone told us to go there, we did. I remember I got chicken, and I don't remember the chicken being like insanely good. But what I do remember being really, really good was the homemade banana pudding.
Of course.
So I don't know. It's just another way for us to find something great.
Yeah. That was just so memorable, being in that studio where so many people had recorded and traveled. And the other thing that was neat about that is they said people also like to record there because it's not in a big city. It's away from everything, so the artists didn't have to feel like they were being hounded by media or anybody following them around. Like they could walk around town almost without people
Nobody
knowing.
know.
Wouldn't even know who
funny.
they were. So they kind of had some freedom
Yeah.
when they were in Muscle Shoals because
It's
it was
a little town.
little town, and they could kind of do what they wanted there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Kind of the big story that we always talk about is Memphis, right? We're heading to Memphis looking for barbecue, and their number one barbecue place in Memphis is called Rendezvous.
Yep. The Rendezvous is where you got to go.
Yep.
Yep.
And the thing about Rendezvous, which is probably the thing that now has made it famous, is it's in an alley. Mm-hmm. So you go down an alley that literally looks like a Memphis alley.
Yeah.
And most Memphis alleys are not good. But Rendezvous Barbecue, 1948.
Yeah.
The issue that we continue to have with this, though, is that they are closed on Mondays.
Yeah, and we forget.
I don't know if we forget or just too dumb, but both times we've been to Memphis has been on a Monday.
Right.
But the first time we're like, oh, let's go. We didn't know. We pull up or walk up because there's no parking in the alley.
Right.
And
Door's locked.
door's locked. Closed on Mondays. So we were so then I think we were just walked through the alley.
Yeah, we were going to head out of the alley, and a guy was coming towards us.
Yeah, I think he was waiting for us because I think he knew.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, more tourists coming on a Monday.
More dorky tourists because we were all wearing. Do you remember we all had matching shirts on that day? That it was our tour shirt.
Right. Tour shirt day.
And it was a Memphis or an Elvis duck that you
we have
created.
a rubber ducky tour is kind of what we go by. So I made a duck figure that looked like Elvis.
That's right.
And so all 6 of us call it. We're in white shirts with a big honking duck on it.
Yeah. So I think he saw us and knew right away. Oh, here's
Elvis.
And he said, "You guys looking for barbecue?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'll take you to the best place for barbecue when Rendezvous is closed." That's what he said. And he said, "Follow me." And that's about it. That's all he said.
Yeah,
and so we started. Come on, follow me.
And this guy was from the South. It was draw time. Come on down,
So we start following him, and he.
Well, he said it. I think he goes, "Yeah, we're there's a bank building here that we're using for an office now. We're renovating."
Yeah. So we walk around the corner.
Yeah.
And kind of went into a side door of this old abandoned bank, and
Amazing architecture.
yeah, it was cool. I mean, it still had. Now he didn't turn the lights on.
That was what I was just going to say. The funny part. Like,
Yeah.
It was dark.
It was dark in there, but there was enough light coming in through some windows that you could see cobwebs and you could see
Right.
like the old teller stations. But he didn't turn the lights on, and he just started walking through this.
And he's hustling an
And
ish.
and so we're starting to follow him like into this. We don't know who this guy is. We're
Come
going
on down
into
to my office.
we're going into this empty, when he's not turning the lights on, this empty bank, with cobwebs, and all of a sudden he starts heading down this big stairway, this marble stairway.
It was a huge,
Yeah.
think old bank.
It was, and so he's heading down there in the dark. One of the guys in our group said, "Hey guys, I'm going to wait up here at the top of the stairs. If you need something,
Just in case someone needs to call 911.
just yell." Yeah. So the rest of us follow him down the stairs, and he turns the corner, and I'm not kidding you. He pulls open the old vault
vault,
door,
yeah.
and it is 2 feet thick. It's got the big wheel in the
Yep.
front, just like in the big bolts that slide it. And he pulls that thing open. He heads in, and I'm getting a little nervous, but he goes in there and he flips on the light. And when he flips on the light, it is like looking at a museum,
Right.
because the walls are completely lined with photos of this guy and all of the famous people that have played the blues or
Right.
musicians from.
Because he owned B.B. King's Barbecue and
Which we didn't know.
no, yet
Still
we just
didn't know.
found that out.
So I start looking at the walls, and this guy with Buddy Guy and Junior Wells and the Mississippi Morris and Los Lobos and Jerry Lee Lewis and Johnny Lang, and
The works.
I'm like, who is this guy? And he says, "My name is Tommy Peters,
Yep.
and I'm the president and CEO of B.B. King's Blues and Barbecue."
Yeah.
And he goes over to his desk and he starts writing out coupons for us.
Yep.
For free dinner, free desserts, free drinks. And
You
he's
name
just
it.
like, "Have dinner on me tonight,
Yeah.
guys." And he just gave us all these free meals and
Oh my
drinks. and
gosh.
it was amazing. And I wish I would have taken some pictures in there, but I felt a little weird about it, But it was amazing. We were inside an old bank vault. It was his private office.
That was his office. Yep.
Giant desk, and there wasn't a spot on the wall where there wasn't a picture of
No.
a famous artist. He was in every one of those. It
Right.
was so cool.
Yeah, that was a neat, just one of those experiences where you just, and I think that's just more chance, right? Like we would just
Yeah.
happen to be in the right place, at the right time.
Right time.
Because we weren't asking,
No.
for it. We were just kind of like, darn,
Yeah,
and then BB King's. If you haven't been there, I mean, that place is amazing.
it's so cool.
And what I was always impressed with there, not every venue you go to has great sound quality, but oh my god,
Oh, it was
like the
fantastic.
sound quality there was just top notch.
Yeah, and they have a lot of regulars that I think play there on a, on
Well, we were there in the
weekly
middle of
basis.
the week day.
Well, it was a Monday.
Yeah, day.
yeah, day. Yeah,
So I mean, it was pretty cool.
yeah,
That was a great one.
yeah. We've been there a couple times now.
Yep.
Since then, but
Yeah.
so cool to meet Tommy Peters. I know he's passed away. He passed
Yeah.
away actually during the pandemic.
Oh, did he?
COVID, but yeah, what a nice guy, super nice guy, and he didn't have to be nice to us.
No.
He didn't know us, from,
he didn't.
from anybody else, and
I think that's the times when I say, or you think, you've said this before, just don't be so rigid with everything. Don't try to plan every minute of every time. I mean,
Yeah.
don't just follow the GPS, because we wouldn't have probably done this. We'd have got back on the bikes, went to, burger shop and moved on.
yeah,
And I think that's where talking to people, you just don't know what you're going to find.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it just takes some time, and I don't know. Like,
yeah,
it just works.
it really does.
This is a section we call the Toolkit. We share motorcycle gear review, and other riding tips. So when I was thinking the toolkit, then I'm like, okay, so what about this, is toolkitability? And so one of the things that I do, and I don't try to make it just a stupid hat, but I try to find something that's a little unique, and then always try to have Iowa like on the hat. Like,
A hat.
a hat.
Okay.
I usually
yeah,
get some sort
yeah,
of a hat.
Yeah.
Bucket hat. I've got like looks like a cowboy hat with a Hawkeye emblem on.
Yeah.
Something to say, here's where we're from, and maybe try to get people to like
Yeah.
ask a question.
Yeah.
And that does seem to work. I mean,
It sure does. Yeah, and you had your bucket hat on, your Iowa bucket hat when Tommy Peters saw us too. I remember
for sure.
that. Yeah.
You know, so that's the one thing that I would say. You know, it's the same kind of idea we said, Mr. Bib overalls. Like, stand out, do something, you know, look a little different. Maybe it's the duck shirt, you know, like wear a weird shirt or something or other and kind of be uncomfortable because then things seem to happen. So.
A conversation starts up
somehow, some way. You know, and I've also had that happen just in the bikes. A lot of people like to come up and look at your bike. You know, almost always. I think if we're not in just a big city or something, people look at the bike. Oh, what's that? You know, tell them. Oh, you know, I've had that, or you know, where are you guys from? Oh my gosh, you guys are a long ways from home.
It's where they have potatoes growing, right?
Right. So
Idaho.
The other one too is just you know, I think of Memphis and Alabama and these rides. I think of hot riding.
Yeah.
So. There was one time that it was so stinking hot that I remember asking him, do you care if we step into the beer cooler for a few minutes? Because it was so stinking hot. And they said, nah, go ahead. You know, just, you know, front the beers a little bit while you're in there. But other than that, take your time.
4 guys standing in a beer cooler.
Hey, I was pushing front stuff. I was stocking the shelves. But no, I think, you know, they've got those neck wrap or gaiters that you can kind of put water on. Yeah. Those do help. I mean, those keep you feeling a little cooler. And then the big water jug, we've talked about this before, which we've come to, you know, it's like a gallon, I think, water jug. You fill it up mostly with halfway with ice, and that ice will stay cool the whole day. It's kind of one of those double insulated. Then I've ran a hose and a bite valve to mine, and man, I've been loving that when we're cruising right along. And
you're strapping it to the back of your bike, or what are you doing?
So how I run is I run the bag, like my motel bags, I run on the seat, the back of the passenger seat. And then I found a way that I can just, most of the motorcycle bags have a couple different places to hook and strap and do. So I was able, the water jug that I bought, I'll put in the show notes, had a little satchel, I guess I'd say, like a neoprene holder for it. And so I was just able to latch that right onto the thing, and it works perfect. And it happens to be right over the shoulder, and so that I can run a short water line over it, and then boom, it's in your mouth. And man, it is nothing like cold water.
Yeah.
You know, and then a lot of times I'll blow that water back in because it's amazing. If you don't, you'll get the temperature of that water is just it's just hot. You know, just
in the hose,
hot in the hose.
In the hose,
Once you get to the cold, then it's fine. But,
You know.
So it does its job. It definitely does its job.
I like that.
So the toolkit will get you at least noticed. Whether it's your choice whether you can talk to people or not. But it really has.
Just smile at people, be open. You never know what they're going to tell you.
That's right. If you like the podcast today, please like and subscribe or sign up for our BMR Riders Alerts. It's our way of keeping you in the loop, and we promise no spam. And if you haven't checked us out, we have the podcast on regular podcast apps, but we also have it on YouTube.
Yeah. Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads, the stories ride forever. Take care.